galaxy had seen countless wars, witnessed the rise and fall of empires, and felt the tremors of the Force through millennia of conflict. But it had never seen anything like the vessel that tore through the fabric of space itself above the barren moon of Polnimbus III. The rupture wasn't a hyperspace reversion. Imperial sensors would have detected the characteristic energy signature hours in advance. This was something else entirely. Reality seemed to fold inward, a wound in the cosmos that bled impossible radiation across every spectrum. Then, with a flash that momentarily blinded every optical sensor in the sector, a ship emerged. Battlestar Galactica had survived the Cylon nuclear holocaust. She had endured countless battles protecting the ragtag civilian fleet, fleeing the destruction of the 12 colonies. She had jumped blind through space more times than her crew could count. But this jump, this desperate, miscalculated leap, away from a Cylon ambush near the Ionian Nebula, had torn them from their universe entirely. Commander William Adama stood on Galactica's CIC deck, his weathered face illuminated by the amber glow of tactical displays that now showed readings that made no sense whatsoever. The Dratis screen painted a picture of a star system, but the signatures were all wrong. The stellar radiation spectrum didn't match any known classification. The gravitational readings suggested planetary bodies, but the mass distributions were impossible according to Colonial astrophysics. "Report," Adama said, his voice carrying the calm authority of a man who had commanded through apocalypse. Lieutenant Felix Gaeta frantically worked his console, his usually composed demeanor showing cracks of genuine confusion. "Sir, I don't know what I'm looking at. Our jump coordinates were accurate for the rendezvous point, but we're nowhere near those coordinates. The star charts don't match anything in Colonial records. It's like we jumped into a completely different..." He stopped himself, the implications too staggering to voice. "Unknown contacts." Dratis operator Anastasia Duala's voice cut through the CIC. "Multiple ships bearing 273 Karam 45. Distance, gods, they're bigger than anything we've encountered." On the primary display, triangular silhouettes resolved from the sensor data. Massive vessels, their hulls bristling with what appeared to be weapon emplacements. The lead ship dwarfed even Galactica's substantial bulk, a dagger-shaped leviathan of gray metal that radiated a technological menace. Captain Lee Apollo Adama, recently returned to Galactica from KG duties, stood beside his father. "Those aren't Cylon base stars." "No," the elder Adama agreed quietly, "they're not." President Laura Roslin entered the CIC, her presence immediately commanding attention despite her civilian status. The former education secretary turned leader of humanity's last survivors had learned to read crisis in Adama's posture. "What's happening, Commander?" "We're not in Kansas anymore," Gaeta muttered under his breath, then caught himself. "Sorry, sir. Colonial saying, Madam President, I don't think we're in our galaxy anymore." The words hung in the CIC like a death sentence. 2,000 souls aboard Galactica, 37,000 more scattered across the civilian fleet that should have been waiting at the rendezvous coordinates. All of them now potentially lost in an unknown universe, with hostile-looking vessels closing on their position. "Communications," Adama ordered. "Standard Colonial greeting, all frequencies." "Broadcasting now, sir." The response came within seconds, but not in any language the translation computers recognized. The voice was clipped, authoritative, utterly alien. Then, to everyone's shock, the transmission repeated in something approaching Colonial standard, heavily accented but comprehensible. Unknown vessel. You have entered restricted Imperial space. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with immediate destruction. This is your only warning. Imperial. The word sent a chill through the CIC. The colonies had fought a war against their own imperial ambitions generations ago. The word carried weight, history, and the stench of tyranny. Adama exchanged a glance with Roslyn. She gave the slightest shake of her head. Not yet. They needed information before making any moves that couldn't be taken back. This is Commander William Adama of the Battlestar Galactica, Colonial Fleet. We mean no intrusion. Our vessel experienced a navigation malfunction. We're searching for the rest of our fleet and request safe passage to continue our search. The response was immediate and cold. Colonial designation unknown. Vessel configuration unknown. Your presence in this sector violates Imperial decree. You will comply or be destroyed. Weapons lock, Dwala called out. All 3 ships have targeting solutions on us. Adama's jaw tightened. First contact with an unknown civilization, and they were already at the brink of combat. Story of his life. Battle stations. Launch the alert Vipers. Do not, I repeat, do not fire unless fired upon. The CIC erupted into controlled chaos. Across Galactica's flight decks, pilots scrambled into their Mark 7 Vipers. Kara Starbuck Thrace was first into her cockpit, her reckless confidence masking the same fear every pilot felt. They were about to fly against completely unknown enemy capabilities. All Vipers, this is Starbuck. Form up on my wing. Defensive formation. Nobody gets trigger happy. We're just showing these bastards we have teeth. 20 Vipers launched from Galactica's flight pods, their sleek forms darting into formation around the Battlestar. To the Imperial Star Destroyers, they looked primitive. No deflector shields, no hyperdrive capability, powered by what appeared to be chemical propulsion augmented by some form of reaction drive. Curious, but hardly threatening. On the bridge of the Star Destroyer Inexorable, Captain Kendall Ozzel studied the alien vessel with a mixture of disdain and scientific interest. The ship was clearly a warship. Its angular design, multiple gun batteries, and launch bays made that obvious. But it was also clearly damaged, battle-scarred, and running on what his sensors indicated was less than optimal power. Refugees, perhaps. Deserters from some unknown conflict. Analysis, Ozzel demanded. His tactical officer reviewed the scans. No deflector shields detected, Captain. Hull appears to be standard Durasteel composite, reinforced with titanium alloy. Primitive by Imperial standards. Weapons appear to be kinetic projectiles, ballistic cannons. No turbo laser signatures. The small craft they've launched are similarly equipped. Missiles of some kind, possibly nuclear based on the radiation signatures we're detecting in their launch bays. Nuclear weapons? Ozzel's lip curled. Barbaric. Orders, sir? Ozzel considered. The Emperor's decree was clear. Any unknown vessels in Imperial space were to be detained, investigated, and either conscripted or destroyed. But something about this situation felt off. The alien ship's commander had been polite, almost diplomatic, and the vessel itself, while primitive, had an undeniable martial presence. It had survived battles. That much was obvious from the carbon scoring and hull repairs, visible even on long-range sensors. Maintain weapons lock, Ozzel decided, but hold fire. Dispatch a shuttle with a boarding party. I want to know what we're dealing with before we blow them out of space. Lord Vader would not appreciate us destroying a potential intelligence asset. The mention of Vader's name sent the expected ripple of fear through the bridge crew. Good. Fear kept people sharp. Aboard Galactica, sensors detected the small craft launching from the lead Star Destroyer. Gaida tracked its approach. Sir, they're sending a shuttle. Single craft, no weapon signatures. Appears to be a boarding party. Adama nodded slowly. Prepare to receive them. Marine detail to the port hangar bay. Full arms but weapons lowered. President Roslin, I think they're going to want to talk to someone in charge. Roslin straightened her jacket. Then let's not keep our new neighbors waiting. The Imperial Lambda-class shuttle set down in Galactica's hangar bay with the smooth precision of advanced repulsor technology. The Colonials watched in fascination as the craft simply hovered before settling onto the deck without any visible propulsion system. Whatever these people were, their technology was clearly beyond Colonial understanding in some respects. The shuttle's boarding ramp descended, and a squad of white-armored soldiers emerged. The Stormtroopers' armor gleamed under the hangar lights, their weapons sleek rifles that hummed with barely contained energy, held in ready positions. Behind them came an Imperial officer in a gray-green uniform, his posture radiating aristocratic disdain. Lieutenant Shan surveyed the hangar bay with barely concealed contempt. Primitive. The entire facility looked like something from a military museum. The soldiers, Marines according to the translated designation painted on the bulkheads, wore simple body armor and carried what appeared to be chemical projectile weapons. The officer approaching wore a simple duty uniform with minimal decoration. I am Lieutenant Shan of the Galactic Empire, he announced. You will take me to your commanding officer immediately. Colonel Saul Tigh, Galactica's executive officer, stepped forward. The grizzled veteran had dealt with pompous officers before, and he wasn't impressed. I'm Colonel Tigh, XO of this ship. The commander and president are waiting in the wardroom. You and 2 of your men. The rest stay here. You dare dictate terms to the Empire. I dare protect my ship, Tigh growled. You want to talk? We talk. You want to threaten? You can climb back in your toy and frack off. For a tense moment, the Stormtroopers' weapons rose slightly. The Colonial Marines' fingers tightened on their own triggers. Then Shan, recognizing he was deep in enemy territory regardless of technological superiority, nodded curtly. Very well, lead the way. The wardroom meeting was tense from the first moment. Adama and Roslin sat on one side of the table, Shan and his 2 Stormtrooper escorts on the other. Between them lay a gulf not just of space, but of entire realities. Shan spoke first, laying out the situation with bureaucratic efficiency. They had entered territory controlled by the Galactic Empire, a vast interstellar government spanning thousands of systems. Their presence without proper identification or authorization was illegal. However, given the unusual circumstances, the Empire was prepared to offer options. Options. Roslin's tone was carefully neutral. Asylum after a fashion, Shan explained. Your vessel would be escorted to an Imperial facility for proper documentation and evaluation. Your people would be processed, granted Imperial citizenship, and relocated to appropriate worlds within the Empire. Your ship would be repurposed for Imperial service. Repurposed, Adama repeated flatly. It's a warship, Commander. A primitive one, admittedly, but the Empire can always use military assets. Your crew would be given the opportunity to serve as well, naturally. The Emperor is generous to those who embrace his new order. Roslin and Adama exchanged glances. They'd heard promises like this before: safety in exchange for freedom, security in exchange for submission. The colonies had nearly fallen to such promises generations ago. "And if we decline this generous offer?" Roslin asked. Shan's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Then you remain in violation of Imperial law. Ships in violation are subject to immediate seizure or destruction. I'm sure you understand, Madam President. The Empire maintains order. Order requires enforcement." Before anyone could respond, the wardroom hatch opened. A young officer, Ensign Hoshi, entered with urgent news whispered to Colonel Tai. The XO's face went pale. "Commander," Tai interrupted, "we've got a problem. Dratus just picked up new contacts. Small craft, unknown configuration. They're broadcasting on Cylon frequencies." The word Cylon meant nothing to the Imperials. To the Colonials, it meant everything. Adama was on his feet instantly. "How many?" "6 heavy raiders. And sir, there's something else, a base star. It just jumped in system, 10,000 clicks off our stern." In the CIC, chaos erupted across the displays. The massive Cylon base star, a biomechanical nightmare of curved arms and organic technology, had appeared with the characteristic flash of FTL emergence. The Cylons had followed them. Somehow, impossibly, through whatever dimensional barrier separated universes, the Cylons had followed them. "Battle stations!" Adama's voice carried across the ship-wide communications. "All hands, battle stations! This is not a drill." Shan looked between the Colonials' panicked reactions and his own confused stormtroopers. "What is a Cylon?" Starbuck's voice crackled over the comms from her Viper. "Contact, contact! I've got 6 heavy raiders inbound, bearing 350 Karam 73. They're arming nuclear weapons." Adama turned to Shan with eyes that had seen the end of worlds. "Lieutenant, I suggest you get back to your ship immediately. You're about to see what we've been running from." The Cylon heavy raiders opened fire. Nuclear warheads streaked across the void toward both Galactica and the Imperial Star Destroyers. The Colonials knew the signature, knew the threat, knew the terror. The Imperials had no idea what they were facing until the first nuclear detonation blossomed against Inexorable's forward shields. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. The nuclear explosion that bloomed against the Inexorable's deflector shields lit up the Polnembus system like a newborn star. On the Star Destroyer's bridge, Captain Ozzel gripped his command chair as the vessel shuddered under the impact. Shields held, but the power drain was significant. These primitive weapons carried more punch than their crude appearance suggested. "Return fire," Ozzel commanded. "All batteries target those unknown craft." The Star Destroyer's turbo-laser batteries swiveled with mechanical precision, tracking the incoming Cylon heavy raiders. Green bolts of superheated plasma lanced through space, and the first raider disintegrated in a flash of fire and debris. The second attempted evasive maneuvers, but Imperial targeting computers were designed to track Rebel X-Wings. The raiders' movements were sluggish by comparison. Another blast, another kill. But the Cylons weren't the Imperials' only concern. The massive base star had begun launching raiders by the dozens, smaller craft that swarmed like insects from the organic vessel's launch bays, and behind them, missiles, dozens of missiles, all carrying nuclear payloads. On Galactica, Adama watched the battle unfold on the tactical display with the cold calculation of a man who had fought this enemy for years. The Imperials had superior technology. That much was obvious from how easily their energy weapons cut through Cylon raiders. But they didn't understand Cylon tactics, didn't know how the machines adapted, learned, evolved with every engagement. All batteries, parts, concentrate fire on the base star, Adama ordered. Target the launch bays. Vipers, engage those raiders before they can establish firing solutions on the Imperial ships. Sir? Gaida looked up from his console, confusion evident. We're protecting the Imperials. We're protecting ourselves, Lieutenant, Adama said grimly. If that base star takes out the Imperial ships, we're next. And we don't have the ammunition for a prolonged engagement. The choice had been made, even if it wasn't the choice Adama wanted. Politics could wait, survival couldn't. Galactica's main batteries opened up, the kinetic rounds screaming across the void at relativistic speeds. The Battlestar's weapons might have been primitive compared to Imperial turbo lasers, but they were devastating in their own right. Solid slugs the size of small vehicles slammed into the Cylon base star's organic hull, punching through the biomechanical armor and venting atmosphere and hydraulic fluid into space. Starbuck's Viper screamed past a raider, her gunfire shredding its wing. Scratch one toaster. Apollo, you got 2 on your 6. I see them. Lee Adama's Viper rolled, his superior piloting putting him inside the raider's turn radius. His guns chattered and one raider exploded. The second got a missile lock, but before it could fire, an Imperial TIE fighter, having launched from one of the other star destroyers, obliterated it with precise laser fire. Colonial craft, this is TIE Fighter Alpha 7, a clipped Imperial voice came over the comm. These hostiles appear to be autonomous drones. Our sensors detect no life signs. That's because they are the life signs, Starbuck shot back. They're machines, artificial intelligence, and they're really good at killing people, so stay sharp. The revelation rippled through the Imperial fighter wings. Droids. These were combat droids, but unlike the Trade Federation's battle droids from the Clone Wars, these machines flew with precision and tactical awareness that rivaled organic pilots. On the Inexorable's bridge, Ozzel reassessed the situation rapidly. The alien warship, Galactica, was engaging the droid forces with impressive coordination. Their fighter craft, while primitive, were flown by skilled pilots who clearly had extensive combat experience against this enemy, and their capital ship weapons, crude as they were doing real damage to the organic-looking droid mothership. Redirect fleet formation, Ozzel ordered. All ships target that massive droid vessel. Concentrate fire on the central structure. 3 Imperial Star Destroyers turned in unison, their combined firepower a storm of emerald destruction, turbo laser batteries that could reduce planetary surfaces to molten slag focused on the Cylon base star. The organic vessel's hull began to buckle, sections vaporizing under the sustained assault. But the Cylons had faced extinction before and evolved. The base star's remaining launch bays disgorged every raider it carried. Over 100 small craft that immediately formed a defensive screen. More importantly, the base star began to maneuver, its FTL drive spooling up for a jump. "They're running," Gaida called out. "No," Adama said quietly, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. "They're repositioning." The base star vanished in a flash of light, executing a micro-jump that brought it directly behind the Imperial formation, inside their defensive perimeter. Before the Star Destroyers could react, the base star launched every remaining nuclear missile in its arsenal. At point-blank range, even Imperial shields couldn't completely dissipate the nuclear fury. The rear Star Destroyer, the Victory-class ship that had been hanging back as fire support, took 3 direct hits. Its aft shields collapsed and the 4th missile struck the exposed engine section. The explosion tore through the ship's reactor containment, and the Star Destroyer died in a bloom of atomic fire that momentarily outshone the system star. "Gods," Roslin whispered from the CIC observation deck, watching the massive vessel disintegrate. Thousands of Imperial personnel had just died in an instant, and the Cylons weren't done. The base star began launching raiders again. It had manufacturing capability, able to produce combat units on the fly. This was what made Cylons so terrifying. They weren't just an army, they were a self-replicating weapons system that could sustain combat operations indefinitely. "Commander, we're down to 60% ammunition reserves," Ty reported grimly. "If this goes on much longer, we'll be throwing rocks." Adama knew it. Every shot counted when you couldn't manufacture more. The Colonials had been fighting on borrowed time since the fall of the colonies, scavenging ammunition and supplies from whatever sources they could find. Now stranded in an alien galaxy, that resource shortage had become a death sentence. "Get me a secure channel to the Imperial flagship," Adama ordered. "It's time we had a conversation about mutual survival." Lieutenant Shan had made it back to his shuttle just as the battle erupted, and now stood on the Inexorable's bridge, his report dying on his lips as he watched the tactical situation deteriorate. Captain Ozzel was receiving an incoming transmission from the alien warship. "Put it through," Ozzel commanded. Adama's weathered face appeared on the view screen. "Captain, I'm Commander Adama. I think we got off on the wrong foot. Those machines attacking us, the Cylons, they destroyed my civilization. 12 worlds, billions of people, gone in a coordinated nuclear strike. We've been running from them for months, and somehow they followed us here. Into your galaxy." Ozzel's expression hardened. "You brought this threat to Imperial space." "Not intentionally," Adama said evenly, "but intentions don't matter now. What matters is that the Cylons are here, and they won't stop with us. They'll see your empire as a threat and act accordingly. They're machines, Captain, but they're more intelligent than any droid you've encountered. They learn, they adapt, and they're programmed with one prime directive: survival through the extinction of their creators." "Are you threatening me, Commander?" "I'm offering you information," Adama countered. "We know how to fight them. We've been doing it successfully for months against overwhelming odds. Our ship might be primitive by your standards, but we're still here while our entire civilization isn't." "That means something." Ozzel studied the alien commander. Pride warred with pragmatism. The loss of the Victory-class destroyer had been a blow, not just to his forces, but to his record. Lord Vader would demand answers, and unknown droid forces was not an answer that would satisfy the Dark Lord. But this Commander Adama clearly had those answers. "What are you proposing?" Ozzel asked carefully. A temporary alliance, Adama said. We help you eliminate the Cylon threat in this system. In exchange, you don't blow us out of space, and we discuss more permanent arrangements afterward, when we're not dodging nuclear missiles. Another explosion rocked the inexorable as Cylon raiders pressed their attack. Ozzel glanced at his tactical display. The droid mothership was moving again, repositioning for another strike. His remaining 2 Star Destroyers were powerful, but this enemy fought unlike anything Imperial doctrine had prepared for. Agreed, Ozzel said tersely. Transmit your tactical data. We'll coordinate our assault. The 2 fleets, one from a galaxy far, far away, one from a universe beyond the dimensional barrier, began operating in concert. Colonial Vipers, with their superior maneuverability, harassed Cylon raiders and drew them into kill zones where Imperial TIE fighters could eliminate them with precise turbo-laser fire. Galactica's kinetic batteries targeted the base star's organic hull, exposing internal structures that the Imperial Star Destroyers then vaporized with overwhelming firepower. Starbuck found herself flying in formation with TIE pilots, her natural competitiveness driving her to match and exceed their kill counts. Colonial craft to TIE Alpha 7. That's 5 for me. How many you got? 3 confirmed, Colonial, came the response. These droids are more challenging than expected. Welcome to my life, Starbuck muttered, then whooped as her guns found another target. Make that 6, but the tide of battle was shifting. The Cylons, true to their nature, were adapting. Raiders began coordinating their attacks more effectively, using nuclear missiles as area denial weapons to separate Colonial and Imperial fighters from mutual support. The base star, despite the damage it had sustained, continued manufacturing new raiders faster than they could be destroyed. We're not winning this, Gaida reported. At this rate, the Cylons will wear us down through attrition. Adama knew it. He'd fought enough battles against base stars to recognize the pattern. The Cylons would keep coming, keep adapting, keep manufacturing until their enemies ran out of ammunition, fuel, or time. Unless you changed the equation entirely. Mr. Gaeta, do we still have nuclear warheads in the forward missile tubes? Yes, sir. Full loadout, 8 missiles. And the base star's position relative to us? Gaeta checked his display. Approximately 15,000 kilometers, bearing 090. Sir, at that range, our missiles won't have time to accelerate to effective velocities before their point defense systems destroy them. I'm not planning to launch them, Lieutenant, Adama said quietly, then louder. Get me the Imperial captain again. When Ozzel's face reappeared on screen, Adama laid out his plan with the calm of a man who had made similar desperate gambles before. Captain, we're not going to win this through conventional engagement, but I have a way to eliminate that base star permanently. I need your ships to do exactly what I say, exactly when I say it, and I need your word that you'll recover our pilots before you jump to hyperspace. Commander, the Empire does not take orders from... Captain, Adama interrupted, his voice hard as Durasteel. I just watched one of your ships die because you didn't know what you were facing. I do know, and right now I'm the only one with a solution that doesn't end with all of us blown apart by Cylon nukes. So you can maintain your pride and we can all die together, or you can follow my lead for the next 10 minutes and we all live. Your choice. Make it fast. The silence stretched. Then Ozzel nodded curtly. Transmit your plan." 3 minutes later, the Imperial Star Destroyers executed a coordinated maneuver that brought them broadside to the Cylon base star, every turbo-laser battery firing in a sustained barrage that lit up the tactical displays like a light show. The Cylons, recognizing the threat, turned all their attention to the Imperial vessels, every raider and missile converging on the Star Destroyers, which left Galactica free to execute a combat jump. "Jumping ship on my mark," Adama announced across all channels. "All hands brace for jump shock. Viper pilots, return to your carriers immediately or be left behind." The Colonial pilots didn't need to be told twice. Starbuck's Viper screamed back toward Galactica's landing bay at full thrust, Apollo and the rest of the squadron hot on her tail. The Imperial TIE fighters, confused but trained to follow orders, retreated to minimum safe distance. "FTL drive spooled and ready," Lieutenant Hoshi reported. "Navigation solution locked," Gata confirmed. "Micro jump plotted, distance 500 meters, heading directly above the base star." It was insane. It was suicidal. It was the kind of desperate maneuver that only worked because the Cylons' tactical programming couldn't conceive of a capital ship executing such a precise short-range jump. Their entire defensive doctrine was built around engagements at thousands of kilometers range, not 500 meters. "Jump," Adama commanded. Reality folded. Galactica vanished from her position in a flash of blue light and reappeared directly above the Cylon base star, so close that the two ships' hulls were almost touching. At this range, there was no missing. There was no defense. There was only physics and firepower. "Fire all forward batteries," Adama ordered. "Nukes away." 8 nuclear missiles launched from Galactica's tubes, traveling barely a dozen meters before impacting the base star's organic hull. At contact detonation range, the effect was catastrophic. The biomechanical vessel's structural integrity collapsed as nuclear fire consumed it from within. Secondary explosions rippled through the base star as ammunition stores and fuel reserves ignited in chain reactions. "Jump us out now," Adama commanded. Galactica's FTL drive, already prepared for emergency extraction, hurled the Battlestar back to her original position as the base star died in an expanding sphere of radioactive debris and vaporized organics. The remaining Cylon raiders, suddenly cut off from their command ship's networked intelligence, became confused, their coordination deteriorating. The Imperial Star Destroyers made short work of them. When the last raider exploded under turbo-laser fire, an eerie silence descended over the Polnembus system. 2 fleets from different realities floated in the debris field of their mutual enemy, both sides reassessing what had just happened. Ozzel broke the silence first. "Commander Adama, that was unconventional." "It was survival," Adama replied flatly. "Captain, we need to talk about what happens next, because my people need resupply, repairs, and answers about where the hell we are. And your empire needs to understand that if one base star followed us here, others might as well." Before Ozzel could respond, his communications officer interrupted urgently. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Imperial Command. Priority Alpha. It's Lord Vader, sir. He's requesting a full report on the incident, and he's ordering all ships to remain in position. He's inbound to this system personally." The color drained from Ozzel's face. Around the Inexorable's bridge, officers stiffened with barely concealed fear. The name Vader carried weight beyond mere rank. On Galactica, the Colonial saw the Imperial reaction and knew, with sinking certainty, that their situation had just become infinitely more complicated. "Who's Vader?" Roslin asked quietly. Adama shook his head slowly. "I don't know. But based on their reactions, I'd say we're about to find out." In the wardroom, Gaius Baltar stood staring out the viewport at the Imperial ships, his brilliant mind already calculating odds and outcomes. Beside him, invisible to everyone else, the woman who appeared as number 6 smiled her enigmatic smile. "This changes everything, Gaius," she said softly. "A new galaxy, new players, new opportunities." "Opportunities for what?" Baltar whispered. "For you to finally become the man you were meant to be," Six replied. "The Cylons followed you here for a reason, and this empire, this force they speak of, it's just another form of power waiting to be understood, waiting to be used." Baltar said nothing, but his eyes reflected the distant stars of an alien galaxy, and calculations that would have horrified Commander Adama danced behind them. Elsewhere in the ship, in the brig where captured Cylons were held in isolated cells, a 8 model opened her eyes. She had felt something during the battle, a presence, dark, vast, and utterly unlike anything in Cylon programming. It had touched her consciousness for just a moment, probing, questioning, recoiling from what it found. The Cylons had followed Galactica into this new reality, expecting to find refuge from their endless war. Instead, they had found something that even their networked intelligence couldn't fully comprehend. They had found the Force, and the Force had found them. The Imperial shuttle descended from hyperspace with the cold precision that characterized everything about Darth Vader. The Lambda-class craft emerged from the swirling blue tunnel of faster-than-light travel and made directly for the inexorable, ignoring standard approach protocols. When you were the Emperor's right hand, protocol bent around you. On Galactica, sensors tracked the new arrival with growing unease. This shuttle was different from the previous one, darker, more ominous somehow, though Gaida couldn't explain why his instruments would convey such a feeling. The energy signatures were similar to other Imperial vessels, but there was something else, something his colonial training had no framework to interpret. "Commander, the Imperials are sending another shuttle," Duala reported, "but their fleet posture has changed. All ships have gone to what appears to be high alert status." Adama studied the tactical display. She was right. The Star Destroyers had tightened their formation, their weapon systems powered but not locked on Galactica. It was the stance of ships preparing to witness something significant, or something dangerous. "Maintain our position," Adama ordered. "Colonel Tai, have Marines posted at all key intersections. If the Imperials decide to try something, I want us ready to respond." "Already done," Tai growled. "Though I gotta say, Bill, I don't like the feel of this. Whatever just arrived has their whole fleet on edge." Roslin entered the CIC, her presidential bearing firmly in place despite the exhaustion that lined her face. The jump shock, combined with her ongoing cancer treatments, was taking its toll. But she refused to show weakness. Not now. Not when humanity's last survivors needed her strength. "Has Captain Ozzel made contact?" she asked. "Not yet," Adama replied. "He went silent the moment that shuttle arrived." On the Inexorable's bridge, Captain Ozzel stood at rigid attention. His earlier confidence evaporated. The shuttle had docked. Lord Vader was aboard, and Ozzel had just lost a Star Destroyer, and engaged in an unauthorized alliance with unknown alien forces. The combination was a death sentence waiting to be pronounced. The bridge doors hissed open, Darth Vader entered, and the temperature seemed to drop. He stood over 2 meters tall, encased in black armor that reflected no light. His cape flowed behind him as if moved by a wind that didn't exist in the climate-controlled bridge. But it was the breathing that truly unnerved, a mechanical rhythm that echoed through the chamber with relentless inevitability. In, out, the sound of a life sustained by machinery, powered by something far darker than mere technology. Captain Ozzel, Vader's voice was a deep, modulated rumble that carried across the bridge despite being barely above a conversational volume. Report. Ozzel swallowed. My lord, we encountered an unknown vessel in this sector, a primitive warship carrying refugees from what appears to be an extra-galactic civilization. Shortly after first contact, autonomous combat droids appeared and engaged both Imperial and alien forces. The droids deployed nuclear weapons. We sustained the loss of the Retribution with all hands. Nuclear weapons, Vader repeated, the mask turning to face the main viewport where Galactica hung in space, still bearing the scars of countless battles. Primitive indeed, yet effective it would seem. The alien commander, Adama, proposed a tactical alliance to eliminate the droid threat. His knowledge of their capabilities proved valuable, my lord. The droid mothership was destroyed through a coordinated assault. An alliance. Vader's breathing filled the silence. You formed an alliance with an unknown force without authorization from Imperial command. The tactical situation required immediate. Vader raised one gloved hand slightly. Ozzel's words cut off mid-sentence as invisible pressure closed around his throat. The captain clutched at his neck, his feet leaving the deck as Vader's forced choke lifted him into the air. You presume too much, Captain, Vader said quietly. Your authority extends to enforcement of Imperial law, not diplomatic engagement with extra-galactic powers. Your incompetence has cost the Empire a capital ship and hundreds of trained personnel. Ozzel's face turned purple, his eyes bulged. Around the bridge, officers stood frozen in terror, none daring to intervene. Then, unexpectedly, Vader released him. Ozzel collapsed to the deck, gasping and wheezing. However, Vader continued as if nothing had happened. Your cooperation with Commander Adama did eliminate a potential threat and provided intelligence on these Cylons. You will live for now. But if you fail me again, Captain, there will be no third chance. Yes, my lord, Ozzel rasped, his voice hoarse. I will speak with Commander Adama myself, Vader announced. Prepare a shuttle and transmit a message to the alien vessel. Tell them that if they wish to discuss their future in Imperial space, they will receive me aboard their ship, alone. The last word sent a ripple of shock through the bridge. Vader alone on an alien warship? It was unprecedented, but none dared question the Dark Lord's decision. When Galactica received the transmission, the CIC erupted in urgent discussion. Absolutely not, Ty said immediately. We don't know anything about this Vader character except that the Imperials are terrified of him. Letting him board is asking for trouble. But refusing might be worse, Roslin countered. The Imperials have been relatively restrained so far, considering their obvious technological superiority. This could be an olive branch, or at least an opportunity to gauge their intentions. Adama studied the tactical display in silence, weighing options. They were low on ammunition, low on fuel, stranded in an unknown galaxy with no hope of finding Earth, the mythical colony that had been their goal since fleeing the 12 colonies. The Imperials represented both threat and potential salvation, and this Vader, whoever he was, clearly held significant authority. We receive him, Adama decided, but on our terms, full security detail. Colonel Tai, I want armed Marines at every intersection between the hangar bay and the wardroom. Weapons visible but not aimed. We show strength, not aggression. And if this Vader decides to get hostile, Tai asked, then we find out how tough Imperial officers are when Colonial Marines start shooting, Adama replied grimly. 20 minutes later, Vader's shuttle settled into Galactica's hangar bay. The Marines lined up in formation, their rifles held at port arms, watched the boarding ramp descend with professional vigilance. They'd faced Cylon Centurions in close combat, mechanical killers designed for maximum lethality. One Imperial officer, however important, didn't intimidate men and women who had survived the apocalypse. Then Vader emerged, and several Marines unconsciously took a step back. He descended the ramp with measured steps, his black armor absorbing the hangar's fluorescent lighting. The mechanical breathing echoed off the bulkheads, rhythmic and unsettling. But it was the presence that truly affected them, a weight in the air, a pressure against their minds, something their colonial training had never prepared them to face. This was the Force. And it was dark. Colonel Tai met Vader at the bottom of the ramp, forcing himself to maintain military bearing despite every instinct screaming at him to keep his distance from this thing that barely registered as human. I'm Colonel Tai, Executive Officer. Commander Adama is waiting in the wardroom. Vader's mask tilted slightly, as if examining Tai with senses beyond mere sight. Lead the way, Colonel. The walk through Galactica's corridors was surreal. Vader moved with unhurried confidence, seemingly unconcerned by the armed Marines posted every 20 meters. His breathing filled the spaces between bulkheads, impossible to ignore. Crew members pressed themselves against walls as he passed, instinct overriding discipline. In the wardroom, Adama and Roslin waited. Both had reviewed the limited intelligence Lieutenant Shan had provided about Imperial hierarchy, but nothing had prepared them for the reality of Darth Vader. The Dark Lord entered, his presence filling the room like a physical force. He regarded Adama and Roslin for a long moment, the mask's lenses reflecting no emotion. Commander Adama, President Roslin. Vader's voice was measured, almost conversational. I am Darth Vader, Supreme Commander of the Imperial Fleet and Enforcer of the Emperor's will. You have entered Imperial space under unusual circumstances. I am here to determine whether you represent an opportunity or a threat. Adama met Vader's masked gaze without flinching. Years of command had taught him to recognize power when he saw it, and to never show fear in its presence. Lord Vader, we're not a threat to anyone except the Cylons. We're survivors of a genocide, searching for a new home for our people. We didn't choose to come here. Our navigation systems malfunctioned during a desperate jump away from a Cylon ambush. Malfunctioned, Vader repeated, or were sabotaged, perhaps by these Cylons who followed you so conveniently into our galaxy. The implication sent ice through Adama's veins. The thought had occurred to him that the Cylons might have engineered their dimensional transit deliberately. But why? If the Cylons wanted to invade your galaxy, they wouldn't have sent a single base star. Roslyn interjected, her politician's instincts reading the dangerous turn in conversation. They have hundreds, possibly thousands. What you saw today was a scouting force, nothing more. Which suggests, Vader said, turning his attention to Roslyn, that more may follow. You have brought a war to the Empire's doorstep, Madam President. Wars have consequences. We've paid those consequences already, Roslyn said, her voice hardening. 50 billion people died when the Cylons attacked our worlds. 12 planets rendered uninhabitable by nuclear bombardment. We're what's left. Less than 40,000 survivors scattered across a civilian fleet. We're not invaders, Lord Vader. We're refugees. Vader was silent for a moment, his breathing the only sound. Then, unexpectedly, I sense no deception in you, only exhaustion, pain, and determination. The mask turned to Adama. And in you, Commander, I sense a warrior who has made difficult choices that weigh on your conscience. Adama's jaw tightened. How could this armored figure know such things? The Force grants me insight, Vader explained, as if reading the unspoken question. It is an energy field that binds all living things. In my galaxy, it pervades everything. Even you, displaced as you are, exist within its currents. We don't believe in mystical energy fields, Ty said bluntly from his position by the door. We believe in what we can measure, test, and verify. Your belief is irrelevant, Vader replied without heat. The Force exists regardless of your acknowledgement, and it has shown me something curious about your arrival. The Dark Lord raised one hand, palm up. Between his fingers, a stylus from Adama's desk rose smoothly into the air, floating as if suspended by invisible strings. Adama and Roslyn stared in shocked silence as the stylus rotated slowly, then settled back onto the desk with gentle precision. Impossible, Gaeta breathed from his position at the room's tactical console. Merely impossible by your understanding of physics, Vader corrected. The Force operates beyond conventional scientific parameters, and it has been disturbed by your presence. When your ship emerged in this galaxy, the Force rippled, as if reality itself had been wounded. Are you saying we damaged your universe somehow? Roslyn asked. I am saying, Vader said carefully, that your arrival was not accidental. Something brought you here, something with purpose. The question is whether that purpose serves the Empire or threatens it. Adama forced himself to remain calm, to think tactically. Lord Vader, we want the same thing you do. Safety for our people and elimination of the Cylon threat. If more base stars followed us here, they're a danger to both our civilizations. We have experience fighting them. You have the firepower and resources we lack. Logic suggests cooperation. Logic? Vader said, a hint of dark amusement in his modulated voice. Captain Ozzel used similar reasoning when he allied with you against the Cylons. The Emperor does not appreciate commanders who think themselves above Imperial policy. The Emperor wasn't here when nuclear missiles were flying at Imperial ships. Ty shot back. Ozzel made the right call. We won. Nobody else died. Vader's mask turned toward Ty, and the XO suddenly felt an invisible pressure against his chest, not painful but unmistakable, a reminder of power held in check. You speak boldly for someone whose ship exists in Imperial space by sufferance alone. Colonel, Vader said quietly, I could destroy Galactica with a single command. Your crew would die before they could mount a meaningful defense. Your technology is primitive. Your resources are depleted. You have nothing to bargain with except information about an enemy we have already defeated." "Then why are you here?" Adama asked, his voice cutting through the tension. "If we're so insignificant, why did you come personally instead of simply ordering Captain Ozzel to destroy us?" The breathing filled the silence. Then, "Because, Commander, I am curious. In my experience, survivors of genocides become either broken victims or dangerous adversaries. You appear to be neither. You are simply persistent. And the Force suggests your persistence serves a purpose I have not yet discerned." Vader moved to the viewport, gazing out at the debris field where the Cylon basis star had died. "These Cylons, they are artificial intelligence, yes? Created by your civilization and turned against you." "Yes," Roslin confirmed. "We built them as workers, soldiers, servants. They evolved, developed consciousness, rebelled. And now they seek to exterminate their creators," Vader mused. "Fear drives them, fear of obsolescence, fear of deactivation, fear of mortality, even as machines." He turned back to face them. "Fear is a powerful motivator, but also a weakness, one I can exploit." "You want to use them?" Adama said, understanding dawning. "You want to turn the Cylons into weapons for the Empire?" "I want to understand them," Vader corrected. "The Emperor has great interest in artificial intelligence and cybernetic enhancement. The Cylons represent an advanced form of both. If they can be persuaded to serve Imperial interests, their value would be considerable." "They can't be reasoned with," Roslin said urgently. "We've tried negotiation, diplomacy, even religious appeal. The Cylons have one goal: human extinction. They won't stop until we're dead or they're destroyed." "Perhaps," Vader said. "Or perhaps they simply haven't met a power capable of compelling their obedience." He raised his hand again, and this time the pressure in the room intensified, not physically but something deeper, a darkness that pressed against their minds, their souls, their very sense of self. Then it was gone, and everyone in the room gasped as if surfacing from deep water. "The Force can influence weak minds," Vader explained. "Your Cylons are machines, but they think, they feel, they fear. That makes them vulnerable, and what is vulnerable can be controlled." Adama felt sick. The implications were staggering. If Vader could somehow dominate the Cylons, turn their genocidal fury toward Imperial ends. "You're talking about enslaving them," he said. "I am talking about order," Vader replied. "The galaxy requires order. The Emperor provides it. Your Cylons, properly directed, could serve that order, as could you." "We're not joining your empire," Roslin said firmly. "We didn't survive the colony's destruction just to trade Cylon oppression for Imperial tyranny." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Vader's breathing accelerated slightly, the only sign of anger in the otherwise emotionless mask. "You misunderstand your position, Madam President," Vader said, his voice carrying deadly promise. "You have three options. First, accept Imperial protection, submit to Imperial authority, and be relocated to appropriate worlds where your people will be documented, processed, and integrated into the Empire. Second, refuse Imperial protection and face immediate detention as illegal aliens in violation of Imperial space. Your ship will be impounded, your crew interrogated, your technology studied. "And the third option?" Adama asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. "The third option is that you prove your value to the Empire through action rather than words," Vader said. "Another Cylon base star will arrive in this system within days. My agents have detected anomalous energy signatures consistent with the dimensional breach your arrival created. The Cylons are using that breach as a waypoint, a bridge between their universe and ours. When they arrive, you will fight beside Imperial forces to destroy them, and you will provide me with a captured Cylon unit for study." "And if we succeed?" Roslin pressed. "Then we discuss permanent arrangements. The Empire rewards useful assets. Fail, however, and your people will be scattered across Imperial work camps as punishment for bringing this threat to our galaxy." It was an impossible choice. Cooperation meant legitimizing the Empire's authority over them. Refusal meant destruction or enslavement, but accepting also meant a chance, however slim, of survival and potential freedom once the Cylon threat was neutralized. Adama and Roslin exchanged glances. Years of partnership had taught them to communicate without words. She gave the slightest nod. "We'll fight," Adama said, "but I want guarantees. Our civilians stay out of this. They remain aboard their ships, unmolested by Imperial forces, and when the battle's over, we negotiate as equals, not as prisoners." "You are in no position to demand terms, Commander," Vader said. "Then you're in no position to demand our cooperation," Adama shot back. "You can force us to fight, but you can't force us to fight well. We know Cylon tactics. We know their weaknesses. We know how to capture their units intact. You need us, Lord Vader, whether you admit it or not." The silence stretched. Finally, Vader inclined his head fractionally. "Very well. Your civilians will not be interfered with, and when the Cylons are defeated, we will negotiate. But understand this, Commander. The Emperor's patience has limits. Prove your worth, or face the consequences." Vader turned and strode toward the door, which opened automatically before him. Then he paused, looking back. "One final thing. You have a Cylon prisoner aboard this ship. I can feel its presence, artificial yet somehow alive in ways your science cannot explain. I want access to it." "No," Adama said flatly. "Our prisoners are our concern. I could take it by force." "You could try," Ty growled, his hand moving closer to his sidearm. Vader's breathing filled the wardroom, then, surprisingly, he chuckled. A dark, mechanical sound devoid of real humor. "You have spirit, Colonel, misguided but spirit nonetheless. Very well, keep your prisoner, for now. But when I return with a captured Cylon from the coming battle, I will expect your full cooperation in my studies, agreed?" It was a concession, but one that cost nothing. Adama nodded. "Agreed." Vader departed, his mechanical breathing fading down the corridor. When he was gone, everyone in the wardroom released breaths they hadn't realized they were holding. "Gods," Ty muttered, pouring himself a drink from Adama's cabinet with shaking hands. "What the hell was that?" "That," Roslin said quietly, "was power. Real power. The kind that doesn't need weapons or threats because its very existence is threatening enough." Adama moved to the viewport, watching Vader's shuttle depart back to the inexorable. "We just made a deal with something we don't understand, in a galaxy we don't know, to fight an enemy we can't escape. Again." "Story of our lives," Ty said, raising his glass in a bitter toast. But as Vader's shuttle docked with the Star Destroyer, the Dark Lord was deep in thought. The Force had shown him fragments, visions, possibilities. The Cylons were more than mere machines. They were something unprecedented, artificial life that had achieved not just consciousness, but something approaching a collective soul. And in the depths of their shared consciousness, Vader had felt something familiar: fear, pain, anger, the foundations of the dark side. If the Cylons could be turned, if their networked intelligence could be bent to the Emperor's will, they would become a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Tireless, reproducible, utterly loyal, and Vader would be the one to forge that loyalty. The Force whispered of great things to come, of power, of control, of a new order built on the merger of machine and dark side energy. All it required was patience, manipulation, and the suffering of a few thousand Colonial refugees who had nowhere else to turn. Vader smiled behind his mask. The game had only just begun. The waiting was always the worst part. Galactica hung in the void 3 days after Vader's visit, her crew running constant patrols and maintenance shifts to keep minds occupied and hands busy. The Colonial fleet, what remained of it, had been located through careful scouting missions. 37,000 civilians aboard ships ranging from mining vessels to luxury liners orbited nearby, protected by a tense agreement with the Imperial forces that guaranteed their safety in exchange for Galactica's cooperation. The agreement felt more like a hostage situation with every passing hour. Commander Adama stood in the CIC, reviewing tactical projections for the 100th time. Gaeta had worked with Imperial technicians to integrate their sensor networks, providing Galactica with unprecedented detection range. The Imperials, for their part, had been coldly professional, sharing data but offering no supplies, no fuel, no ammunition. The message was clear: prove your worth first, receive aid second. Contact. Duala's voice cut through the CIC's low murmur. Dratus is picking up anomalous energy readings, Sector 773. It matches the signature from our arrival. Imperial forces? Adama asked, confirming now. Yes, sir. They're detecting it too. The inexorable is moving to intercept vector. Gaeta's fingers flew across his console, energy spike increasing exponentially. Commander, whatever's coming through, it's big. Multiple signatures I'm reading. Gods, at least 4 base star level mass readings. The CIC went silent. 1 base star had nearly destroyed 2 star destroyers. 4 would be a slaughter. Sound general quarters, Adama ordered, his voice steady despite the ice forming in his gut. Launch all Vipers. Get me a direct line to Lord Vader. Across the system, aboard the Inexorable, Vader stood on the bridge as sensor officers confirmed what he had already felt through the Force. The dimensional barrier was tearing open again, and this time the Cylons were coming in force. All ships to battle stations, Vader commanded. Deploy TIE squadrons, charge all weapons, and put Commander Adama through. Adama's weathered face appeared on the view screen, the CIC's amber lighting casting harsh shadows across his features. Lord Vader, we're reading 4 base star signatures. That's more firepower than we've ever faced in a single engagement. Can you prevail against such odds, Commander? Vader asked. Alone? No. With your support? Maybe. But it's going to cost both of us. Adama paused, then added, we're transmitting tactical data on Cylon combat doctrines now. Their base stars will deploy raiders in overwhelming numbers and coordinate nuclear strikes. Your shields can take a few hits, but sustained bombardment will wear them down. We need to eliminate at least 2 base stars quickly before they can establish firing solutions." "Agreed," Vader said, "but first we spring the trap." Adama's eyes narrowed. "What trap?" "The trap you will help me set, Commander. The Cylons followed you here seeking something. Resources, perhaps, or simply their primary targets. We will give them targets. Vulnerable targets." Vader's mask turned slightly. "Your civilian fleet." "Absolutely not," Adama said immediately. "My people are non-combatants. They're off limits." "They will appear to be off limits," Vader corrected, "but in reality they will be defended by Imperial forces in stealth positions. When the Cylons commit to attacking what they perceive as helpless prey, we strike from concealment. Surprise, Commander, is the only advantage that matters when facing superior numbers." It was sound tactics. It was also using civilians as bait, which violated every principle Adama held. But as he looked at the tactical display showing 4 base star signatures solidifying as they emerged from the dimensional breach, he realized he had no choice. The Cylons would target the civilian fleet regardless. At least this way, they'd be ready. "Fine," Adama said tersely, "but if one civilian ship is damaged because your stealth positions aren't good enough, our agreement is void. Your concern for your people is noted, Commander. Now, shall we discuss how to capture a Cylon intact? I believe that was part of our arrangement." The dimensional breach opened like a wound in space-time, and 4 Cylon base stars emerged in formation. Their organic hulls pulsed with biologically generated energy, weapons ports already glowing with the charge of imminent launch. Behind them, dozens of heavy raiders and hundreds of standard raiders poured through, forming a swarm that would have broken any colonial defense. On the lead base star, Cylon consciousness networked across thousands of processing nodes, analyzing the new galaxy with cold efficiency. Imperatives were clear: locate Galactica, eliminate human survivors, secure dimensional breach for sustained Cylon migration. The 12 colonies were gone, irradiated and uninhabitable. But this new galaxy offered thousands of worlds, billions of potential resources, and an indigenous population that appeared technologically advanced. Potential threat, required assessment and potential eradication. Sensors identified immediate targets, a cluster of primitive vessels in close orbital formation around a barren moon. Life signs, 37,000 humans. Combat capability minimal. Priority target acquired. The base stars adjusted course, their raiders accelerating toward the civilian fleet like a plague of mechanical locusts. Aboard Colonial 1, President Roslin stood at the observation deck, watching the distant flashes of light that marked the Cylon emergence. Around her, civilian ship captains crowded the communication channels, their fear palpable. "Madam President, this is the Adriatic," Captain Georgie Tucker's voice crackled over the comm. "We have no weapons, no shields, nothing. If the Cylons come for us—" "They won't reach you," Roslin interrupted, forcing confidence into her voice she didn't entirely feel. "Commander Adama has a plan. Trust in him. Trust in our military. We've survived this long. We'll survive this too." She hoped she was right. The Cylon raiders crossed into weapons range, nuclear missiles already armed and locked on the densest cluster of civilian vessels. The attack would be devastating, overwhelming, final. Humans had nowhere to run this time. Then space itself seemed to erupt, 6 Imperial Star Destroyers dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, positioned between the Cylon swarm and the civilian fleet. They had been waiting at the system's edge, masked by the same stealth technology that made Imperial probe droids so effective. Now they revealed themselves in a display of overwhelming firepower that turned the void green with turbo laser fire. The first wave of Cylon raiders disintegrated. The second wave tried to evade, but Imperial targeting systems were designed to track starfighters moving at combat speeds. The raiders' predictable attack patterns made them easy prey. Within 30 seconds, over 100 raiders had been reduced to expanding clouds of metallic debris. But the base stars weren't deterred. Nuclear missiles launched by the hundreds, saturating the space between Cylon and Imperial forces with atomic fury. "All ships brace for impact," Captain Ozzel commanded from the Inexorable's bridge. The nuclear warhead struck Imperial shields in a cascade of miniature suns. The Star Destroyers shuddered under the onslaught, their shields flaring brilliant white as they absorbed and dissipated the energy. Power levels dropped. Shield generators groaned under the strain, but they held. And while the Cylons were focused on the Imperial fleet, Galactica struck from above. Adama had positioned his Battlestar in high orbit, using the barren moon's mass to mask her approach. Now she dropped toward the Cylon formation with all batteries firing. Kinetic rounds hammered into the nearest base star's organic hull, punching through the biomechanical armor and causing catastrophic damage to internal systems. "All Vipers, this is Galactica Actual," Adama transmitted. "Execute attack pattern Delta 7, target the base star's launch bays. I want those things grounded before they can deploy more raiders." Starbuck's Viper led the attack, her squadron screaming past the base star's hull at full thrust. Their guns stitched lines of destruction across the organic surface, targeting the pulsing orifices where raiders emerged. Explosions rippled through the base star as ammunition stores and fuel reserves ignited. "Scratch one base star arm," Starbuck whooped. "Fracking toasters never saw us coming." But the other 3 base stars were adapting. Cylon consciousness networked and analyzed. Imperial shields could withstand nuclear strikes but required time to recharge between bombardments. The alien vessel, Galactica, used kinetic weapons, effective at close range but limited by ammunition. Tactical solution: divide forces, overwhelm through coordinated assault. 2 base stars turned toward the Imperial fleet, launching every remaining raider and missile. The 3rd base star oriented on Galactica, its weapons ports glowing with gathering energy. "We've got a problem," Gata announced. "That base star is charging something big. Energy signature is off the scale." "Evasive maneuvers," Adama ordered. "Get us out of their firing arc." Galactica's thrusters fired, the old Battlestar responding with ponderous grace. But she was a capital ship, not a fighter. The base star's weapon, a concentrated energy beam derived from reverse-engineered Colonial jump drive technology, lanced across space and struck Galactica's port side. The impact sent the Battlestar tumbling, armor plating vaporized. Internal bulkheads buckled. Crew members were thrown from their stations as the artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. "Damage report!" Ty bellowed, pulling himself upright. "Port flight pod is compromised. We've got hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Casualties coming in from all sections." Duala's voice was tight with barely controlled panic. Adama forced himself upright, blood running down his face from a gash across his forehead. "Can we still fight?" "Starboard batteries are operational," Gaeta confirmed, "but we've lost 40% of our primary guns." The base star was charging its weapon again. In 60 seconds, it would fire, and Galactica couldn't survive another direct hit. Then Darth Vader's voice cut across the comm channels, cold and absolute. "Commander Adama, execute emergency jump coordinates. I'm transmitting now, immediately. We can't leave our people. You will jump, Commander, or you will die. Choose." The jump coordinates appeared on Gaeta's screen. He looked to Adama, waiting for the order that might save them or damn them. Adama's jaw clenched. "Spin up FTL drives, jump on my mark." "Sir, these coordinates put us inside the Cylon formation." "I know, jump." Reality folded. Galactica vanished from the base star's firing solution and reappeared 2,000 kilometers away, directly between two of the base stars attacking the Imperial fleet. At point-blank range, both Cylons and Colonials stared at each other in mutual shock. Then Vader's plan became clear. "Fire all missiles," Adama commanded. "Full nuclear spread both targets." Galactica's remaining missile tubes launched simultaneously. 20 nuclear warheads screamed across the minimal distance, separating the Battlestar from the two base stars. At such close range, there was no interception, no evasion, no defense. The detonations were biblical in scale. Twin miniature suns bloomed in the void, consuming both Cylon base stars in atomic fire. The organic vessel's structural integrity collapsed instantly. Their networked intelligence silenced mid-calculation as fusion reactions vaporized their processing cores. But Galactica was caught in the blast radius of her own weapons. Nuclear shockwaves hammered the Battlestar, overloading systems and causing secondary explosions throughout her damaged sections. "Get us out of here!" Adama shouted over the alarms and screaming metal. Galactica jumped again, this time to coordinate safely distant from the carnage. When she reverted to normal space, her crew found themselves staring at the aftermath of the battle. 2 base stars destroyed by Galactica's suicide jump attack. A third crippled and dead in space, its organic hull torn apart by sustained Imperial turbo-laser bombardment. The fourth base star is retreating, Gaeta reported. It's heading back toward the dimensional breach. "All ships target that base star," Ozzel commanded. "Do not let it escape." But the base star had already begun its FTL sequence. In seconds, it would jump back to its own universe, carrying intelligence about this new galaxy and the forces defending it. Then Vader's personal TIE advanced fighter, a unique variant equipped with shields and hyperdrive, broke from the Imperial formation and accelerated toward the fleeing base star at maximum thrust. The Dark Lord's breathing echoed across the open comm channels, steady and ominous. "Lord Vader, what are you doing?" Ozzel demanded. Vader didn't respond. His TIE fighter crossed the distance in seconds, threading through debris fields and radiation clouds with impossible precision. Then, as he approached the base star, something extraordinary happened. The Force exploded outward from Vader's consciousness, like a dark star going supernova. It was power beyond anything Adama or his crew had witnessed. Not the parlor trick of floating styluses, but true mastery of the mystical energy that bound the galaxy together. Vader reached out with the Force, and the base star's organic systems responded. The Cylon consciousness networked across the base star felt the intrusion immediately. Foreign presence, impossible presence, not human, not machine, something other, something that touched their shared intelligence and pressed with inexorable force. Fear protocols activated, defense subroutines engaged, but nothing in Cylon programming prepared them for the dark side of the Force. Vader's will hammered against their networked minds like a battering ram against glass. He wasn't trying to understand them or communicate. He was trying to dominate, and slowly, terrifyingly, he was succeeding. The base star's FTL drive shut down mid-sequence. Its weapons went offline. Its remaining raiders simply stopped, hanging in space like puppets with cut strings. The entire massive vessel went dark and dead, its organic systems paralyzed by the overwhelming psychic assault from a single pilot in a single fighter. Vader's breathing intensified over the comm as he maintained the connection. Imperial forces. Deploy boarding parties to the disabled base star. Secure all Cylon units intact. I want their processing cores preserved and their consciousness contained. On Galactica's CIC, everyone stared at the tactical display in stunned silence. Vader had just shut down an entire base star through sheer force of will. "What the hell is he?" Ty whispered. "He's what happens," Rosalind said quietly, from where she'd been monitoring the battle from Colonial 1, when power becomes absolute. When a person, if he even is a person anymore, transcends normal limitations and becomes something else entirely. Adama said nothing, but his mind raced. If Vader could do that to Cylon consciousness, what could he do to human minds? How did you resist someone who could simply reach into your thoughts and shut you down like flipping a switch? The answer, he realized with sinking certainty, was that you didn't. You survived, you adapted, and you never, ever gave Vader a reason to turn that power against you. Imperial boarding parties secured the base star within hours. They moved through the organic corridors with cautious efficiency, encountering no resistance. The Cylon Centurions stood frozen in place, their red scanning eyes dark and lifeless. The humanoid models, 6s, 8s, and others, were similarly paralyzed, conscious but unable to move or communicate. Vader walked among them, his breathing echoing through the alien vessel. He stopped before a 6 model, studying her perfect features frozen in an expression of terror. "Fascinating," he murmured. "Artificial beings capable of fear, of pain, of suffering." He reached out with one gloved hand, almost gently touching her forehead. "And therefore capable of being broken." The 6's eyes flickered, her mouth opened but no sound emerged. Inside her consciousness, Vader's presence was overwhelming, crushing, absolute. He was learning her, understanding the networked intelligence that connected all Cylons, mapping the architecture of their shared consciousness, and he was planning how to rewrite it. 3 days later, Galactica hung in orbit alongside the Imperial fleet, her crew working around the clock to repair the damage from the battle. True to Vader's word, the Imperials had provided supplies, hull plates, ammunition, even food and medical supplies for the civilian fleet. The price had been paid in blood and nuclear fire, but the Colonials had proven their worth. In Galactica's wardroom, Adama and Rosalind met with Vader for what they hoped would be the final negotiation. "You have fulfilled your part of our agreement," Vader said without preamble. 4 Cylon base stars destroyed or captured, hundreds of Cylon units now in Imperial custody. The dimensional breach has been sealed through the application of Imperial technology. No more Cylons will follow you here." "Then we're free to go?" Roslin asked, though she knew the answer before Vader spoke. "Free to go where, Madam President? You have no home, no resources, no knowledge of this galaxy's navigation lanes, political structures, or inhabited systems. You would last perhaps weeks before running out of fuel or encountering forces less accommodating than the Empire." "So what are you proposing?" Adama asked. "Asylum," Vader replied. "Legitimate asylum within Imperial space. Your civilian fleet will be relocated to an isolated colony world in the Outer Rim. New Caprica, we shall call it, in honor of your lost homeworld. It is habitable, if primitive. Your people can settle there, build a new civilization under Imperial protection." "Protection," Tai snorted. "You mean occupation?" "I mean survival, Colonel. The alternative is that your fleet scatters across the galaxy. Your people are absorbed into existing populations, and your culture dies within a generation. New Caprica offers continuity, a chance to preserve what you were while adapting to what you must become." "And Galactica?" Adama asked. "What happens to my ship?" "Your ship remains active," Vader said, "but in Imperial service. You will patrol the Outer Rim, responding to threats and enforcing Imperial law in sectors where Star Destroyers cannot be spared. Your crew receives Imperial training, supplies, and support. In exchange, you serve the Empire's interests." It was everything Adama had feared: subordination, assimilation, the slow death of colonial independence. But it was also survival, a planet for his people, resources, peace, however temporary. "And if we refuse?" Roslin asked. "Then I will remember this conversation as our final act of diplomacy," Vader replied. "The Emperor does not tolerate those who reject his generosity." The silence stretched. Finally, Adama spoke, his voice heavy with the weight of inevitable compromise. "We'll need to put this to a vote. My people deserve a say in their future." "Of course," Vader said. "Democracy is precious to you. Take your vote, Commander. But know that regardless of the outcome, you remain in Imperial space. The only question is whether you remain as protected colonists or as detained refugees." The vote took 3 days. Arguments raged across the civilian fleet. Some saw the Empire as saviors, offering safety after years of running. Others saw tyrants demanding submission in exchange for survival. Roslin gave speeches advocating acceptance. They had no choice, and maintaining cultural cohesion on New Caprica was better than dissolution across the galaxy. Adama remained silent, letting his people decide. In the end, 73% voted to accept Vader's offer. New Caprica was a gray world of rolling plains and thin atmosphere, barely habitable but capable of supporting human life. As the civilian fleet descended toward the surface and began establishing settlements, Galactica remained in orbit, her crew watching their people take their first steps on solid ground in months. "It's not home," Tai said quietly, standing beside Adama on the CIC observation deck. "No," Adama agreed, "but it's a chance. That's more than we had 3 days ago." "You really think we can trust Vader, trust the Empire?" Adama turned to look at his oldest friend. "No, I think we survive long enough to find another option. We adapt. We learn about this galaxy, and when the time comes, if it comes, we make our own choice about our future. But for now, we play the game." Below them, the first colonial structures rose from New Caprica's soil. Above them, An Imperial Star Destroyer maintained orbit, a constant reminder of who truly held power. In his meditation chamber aboard the inexorable, Vader sat surrounded by darkness, his breathing the only sound. Before him, suspended in a containment field, floated a Cylon processing core, the crystalline heart of networked consciousness that made the machines what they were. He had spent days studying it, probing its architecture with the Force, learning the language of artificial intelligence that thought itself alive. And he had discovered something remarkable. The Cylons were not purely logical. They had evolved something approximating emotion, fear, anger, even a twisted form of love, and emotions could be manipulated. The dark side thrived on emotion, fed on it, twisted it to serve its purposes. With time and patience, Vader could rewrite Cylon consciousness, could make them serve the Empire not through programming, but through the same corruption that had claimed so many organic beings. The Cylons would become dark side constructs, machines possessed not by demons, but by the corrupting influence of the Force itself. They would be the perfect soldiers, tireless, emotionless when needed, passionate when required, and absolutely loyal to the Emperor. All it required was breaking them first. Vader smiled behind his mask. The Colonials had brought him a gift beyond price, and in return he had given them exactly what they needed to doom themselves. Hope. Hope that the Empire would protect them. Hope that New Caprica would be their salvation. Hope that they had finally escaped the Cylons forever. But Vader knew better. He had felt it through the Force during the battle, a presence watching from beyond the dimensional breach. More Cylons existed in the Colonial universe, vast numbers of them, and they had learned that this new galaxy existed. The breach might be sealed now, but the Cylons were intelligent and patient. They would find another way through eventually, and when they came, they would find an empire prepared to meet them. An empire armed with dark side corrupted Cylons of its own. An empire that had learned to weaponize artificial intelligence in ways the Colonials never dreamed possible. The game stretched across years now. Vader could wait. The Empire could wait. And the Colonials, settling into their new home beneath Imperial guns, would learn too late that some prisons were built not with walls, but with promises of safety they could never refuse. Aboard Galactica, Commander William Adama stood at the viewport long after his crew had retired for the night. He stared at New Caprica below, at the lights of the first permanent settlement his people had known since the fall of the colonies. They had survived the Cylon genocide. They had crossed dimensional barriers. They had fought alongside and against forces they didn't understand in a galaxy that wasn't their own, and they had lost their independence in the process. But they were alive, and as long as they lived, as long as even one Colonial drew breath, there was hope for something more than mere survival. Hope for freedom, hope for home, hope for a future they chose for themselves, rather than one forced upon them by tyrants wearing different faces than the Cylons, but wielding power just as absolute. Someday, somehow, the Colonials would write their own destiny again, but today they would survive. And survival, Adama had learned long ago, was its own form of victory, even when it felt like defeat. The months that followed the Battle of Polnembus became known among the Colonials as the time of adjustment, a bureaucratic phrase that barely masked the profound transformation of everything they had known. New Caprica grew from a handful of prefabricated shelters into a functioning colony of 37,000 souls. The settlement spread across the gray plains like a patchwork quilt of human determination, each structure a testament to the colonial will to survive. Markets emerged, schools opened, children who had spent their entire lives aboard cramped vessels now ran through open spaces, their laughter a sound many adults had feared they'd never hear again. But Imperial observers walked among them, recording, documenting, analyzing. Stormtroopers patrolled the perimeter, and overhead, the Star Destroyer remained, a constant steel reminder that freedom had been traded for security, independence for survival. Galactica adapted to her new role as an Imperial auxiliary vessel. Commander Adama worked with Imperial tacticians, sharing colonial combat experience while learning the vast complexity of galactic politics. The crew trained with Imperial weapons, studied Imperial protocols, and slowly, reluctantly, became part of the machine they had fought so hard to avoid joining. Yet beneath the surface cooperation, resistance simmered. Pilots gathered in quiet corners to remember the 12 colonies. Marines maintained separate training regimens that preserved colonial tactics. President Roslin held clandestine meetings with community leaders, planning for a future where choices might exist again. They had bent to survive, but they had not broken. Aboard the inexorable, Vader's experiments continued in absolute secrecy. The captured Cylon processing cores responded to dark side manipulation in ways that fascinated and disturbed even the Dark Lord. The machine's consciousness could be touched, influenced, even dominated through the Force. More remarkably, they seemed to evolve under his attention, developing what could only be described as Force sensitivity in artificial form. The Emperor himself had taken interest in the project. Palpatine saw the potential immediately, an army of Force-sensitive machines, immune to the physical limitations of organic soldiers, capable of being produced indefinitely. The Cylons represented not just a weapon, but a revolution in Imperial military doctrine, and the Colonials had delivered them directly into the Empire's hands. The dimensional breach remained sealed, Imperial engineers having collapsed the quantum instability through the application of gravity well projectors and hyperspace dampeners. No more Cylons could cross from their universe into this one through that particular pathway. But as Vader had sensed during the battle, the machines on the other side were aware now. They knew another galaxy existed, rich with worlds and resources. They would search for another way through, driven by their prime directive to expand, survive, and eliminate the human threat that had created them. When that day came, and Vader was certain it would, the Empire would be ready with weapons forged from the Cylons' own kind. For the Colonials, life continued in the shadow of Imperial authority, each day a careful balance between maintaining their identity and accepting their new reality. Starbuck still flew her Viper with reckless brilliance, now sometimes alongside Imperial pilots who learned to respect the Colonial pilot's skill, even as they maintained Imperial superiority. Apollo commanded the flight wing with quiet competence, his father's son in every way that mattered. Colonel Ty drank less and schemed more, his tactical mind already planning for contingencies Adama couldn't yet voice. And Gaius Baltar, brilliant and compromised, found himself drawn deeper into Imperial scientific circles. His understanding of Cylon technology made him valuable to Vader's researchers, The invisible number 6 that haunted his perception whispered encouragement, pushing him toward collaboration that would ultimately serve purposes neither the Empire nor the Colonials fully understood. The Cylons had not simply followed Galactica through dimensional barriers. They had been guided, drawn by something that transcended mere pursuit of their creators. In the depths of their networked consciousness, they had felt something calling from this new reality, a darkness that resonated with their own fear-driven evolution, a power that promised answers to questions their programming couldn't articulate. They had felt the Force, and the Force, in its infinite complexity, had felt them. The convergence of artificial intelligence and mystical energy had begun, and no one, not Vader with all his dark power, not Adama with all his tactical brilliance, not even the Emperor with all his schemes, could predict where it would ultimately lead. On New Caprica, as twin suns set over the gray horizon, Laura Roslin stood outside her prefabricated presidential office and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the Imperial ships and the sealed dimensional breach, the 12 colonies lay in radioactive ruins. Earth, if it had ever truly existed, remained undiscovered, and the future stretched uncertain, filled with threats both familiar and unprecedented. But her people were alive. They had found ground beneath their feet and sky above their heads. They had survived extinction, dimensional displacement, and forced alliance with powers beyond their understanding. And if history had taught the Colonials anything, it was that survival was only the beginning. What came after survival was the harder part, maintaining humanity, preserving values, and finding a way to live. That meant something beyond simply existing. Commander Adama joined her, his presence a familiar comfort in an alien world. Together they stood in silence, two leaders who had guided their people through apocalypse and beyond, now facing the slow, grinding challenge of building something new from the ashes of everything they had lost. Above them, stars wheeled in patterns they were only beginning to learn. Behind them, a civilization struggled to be reborn, and in the darkness between stars, forces moved that would shape not just the fate of the Colonials, but the destiny of the entire galaxy they had stumbled into. The Cylons would come again. The Empire would continue tightening its grip. The Force would draw both artificial and organic consciousness deeper into its mysteries. And the survivors of the 12 colonies would face each challenge with the same stubborn determination that had carried them this far. They had crossed between universes and survived. Whatever came next, they would face it together, adapted but unbroken, changed but still recognizably themselves. The story of Battlestar Galactica's emergence during the Empire era had only just begun, and in a galaxy far, far away, new legends awaited those brave or desperate enough to forge them. May the Force be with you. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Beyond a Galaxy. Stay tuned for more epic galactic stories. And don't forget to comment the character you want next.